I'm so pissed off, Murphy. I haven't even got in the meat of the chapter yet, and I'm so pissed off.
Okay. I agree with everything that you're saying. You're absolutely right. But I still loved the chapter. Why, hello there. This is the Magician's video where I read through the trilogy. I've already read book 1. I've talked about it in several videos, so we won't rehash old things in this one. I still have 2 more books to read, and I thought it might be fun. I do reading vlogs on my second channel every week. Thought it might be fun to do a dedicated video for this series because book 1 I both loved, adored, and hated. It does some things so perfectly and some things just rant-worthy, truly rant-worthy. So now it's time to continue the trilogy. I'm completely invested. I'm 100% in with this trilogy, and I thought it would be fun since I have such polarizing reactions to this story. I thought it might be fun to just do a dedicated video going through the rest of this journey. I'll keep this vlog spoiler free, and then I'll also have a spoiler filled discussion on the second channel so we can dig into the meat of the whole thing once it's finally done. But I'm ready to just binge these 2 books. I'm ready to just throw myself into the rest of the series and love it. And hate it probably too, because that is just the nature of how it's gone so far. So, I've already started book 2. I already love it. The quick pitch for this series is boy runs off to the magical world that he grew up reading and loves so much, but once he gets there, it's not all as whimsical and magical as he expected. I really hope I'm gonna continue to love book 2 as much as I do so far. Oh, come on. No. Why, yes, these are airplane sheets and they're cool. So there's so many things that I'm loving about this book and about what it's doing and the direction that it's going in. I'm loving the characters that we're interacting with. I think that the pacing in this story and the structure of the story is a million times better in this particular edition, in book 2 than it was in book 1. In book 1, it felt like the pacing was all over the place. It's just the pacing was bonkers in book 1, and really the structure was bonkers too in book 1, and that was a piece of my frustration with the first book. Book 2, I'm just feeling so much better about all those things. I think it's all being handled better. Like, it feels like there's a direction, there's a point that we're going to. It doesn't feel like the storytelling doesn't feel so jagged. And in fact, we're now having 2 perspectives. I'm not stuck in Quentin's head 24/7, which instantly makes book 2 better. But anyway, we have 2 perspectives that are being balanced in this book, and the way that they're being balanced and the way their stories are weaving together and the way that one perspective will reveal more information on a certain thing that we watched happen from the other perspective, the way it's all being executed is just so much stronger in book 2, which I was hoping for. Because I loved book 1, but I had a lot of execution problems with book 1, and I was hoping that the execution would get stronger as the series progressed so that I could just be fully obsessed, and I am. I mean, it still has problems. Don't hear me wrong. It still has problems, but so many good things. But let's talk about some of the execution problems that still exist. One really great example is a scene that I just read. There is a character, and this is a spoiler-free vlog, there is a character that is going through a lot, and in that she is losing her mind, literally she's losing herself. And there's a scene where Quentin knocks on her door and she answers the door not fully dressed. She has her dress on the bottom half, but she's not dressed. Her whole upper body is naked. And I used to work in a nursing home, so this is actually a scenario that has happened to me and to people that I used to work with multiple times. This is not an uncommon occurrence for someone who's losing their faculties, for someone who is getting lost in their mind, to not get dressed, not notice how awkward socially the whole situation was. So this character, this happening to her, and then her just kind of responding with, "Oh, sorry," and then closing the door getting fully dressed and then opening the door again and then just kind of being numb and not really noticing. All of this is really tragic. Like, this is such a realistic, normal depiction of this sort of very, very tragic situation that's happening right now. But in situations like this, the focus of the scene matters. Where the author's focus lands is important for the impact of the scene. Avatar: The Last Airbender, spoiler free for that series as well. In the final Agni Kai, the emphasis isn't on big hype music or on how awesome the battle is. The focus is on the sadness of this moment, that this moment even had to happen, and then it had to happen between the characters that it was happening with. The focus of that scene was on the despair of the sadness of the situation, which made the impact of that scene a million times stronger than it would have been if it had been focused on how cool the battle was. The focus of this desperately sad scene that I just read, because we're in Quentin's mind, was on the character's exposed breasts. It was on the fact that he's imagined her breasts many times. And in fact, he was right. He was really close in how he had pictured them in his mind. They're great. They're awesome. He was wrong about the nipples. Allow me to describe them for you. That was where the focus of the scene ended up resting. And this is a great illustration of one of the big issues that I have with the series, and that's that really amazing things are happening, or really desperate, horrible things are happening. I love the ideas being presented, but sometimes the execution undercuts the greatness. Where the focus lies, or how it's handled, or the emphasis of the scene undercuts the impact of the scene. And so there's so many scenes that I come across in the series where I'm like, could have been great. But instead, the author is intentionally writing Quentin in a way that he has a lot of progress to do. He has a lot of growing to do, and that's intentional. But sometimes the author, sometimes Grossman, values depicting Quincy's faults over valuing the importance of the scene or the story. And that's his choice, because it's his story and he can write it however he wants. But it is not my preference. It's not my preference. I would much rather have the impact of how desperate this scene is than focusing once again on the fact that Quentin sucks. It's time. I haven't finished book 2 yet, but it's time for us to start the watch party for the TV series. I have so many feelings about this book, but you know what I also feel? I love it. I love the world. I want to see it all come to life. I typically don't watch shows or movies, it's not my thing, but this series, I need to see how it was adapted. I gotta know. So on my Patreon, we're all gonna watch it together. We're just watching the first episode today because we need to, not get spoiled, since they combined book 1 and 2 in season 1. So I've got my hummus, I've got my bagel chips, and I'm ready to watch the first episode of The Magicians. It was so good, and I will absolutely be continuing. I'm at least committing to watching all of season 1. I'm so excited. I finished book 2, and oh, what a disappointing end. I was really enjoying this book. It has its flaws. There are certainly scenes that are not awesome. We talked about one of them in the last clip, or 2 clips, whatever, when we talked recently, and then it was going really well after that. Awesome adventures, amazing mythical creatures that are mean to Quentin. Always a win. Really genuine character growth. Julia especially, who should be the main character of the series, if I do say so myself, was incredible. We got more backstory on her and all of the build up to show us how she got to where she is, all that she's been through, and how she's fought and changed, and how what's happened to her has sucked the life out of her, and how it all intertwines with the themes of the story, and how her storyline really parallels Quentin's in so many ways. Just so many good things happening in this book. And then it ended. There's a scene near the end of this book that is just deeply unfortunate. I can't talk about it here because I do feel like since it's right at the end of the book, it just can't, like, I shouldn't say anything about it other than I see what Grossman was trying to do with the scene, and I see his attempt at doing it well, and I just think it failed. I really do feel like I see what he was going for with that scene, but oh, it's a shucks deal. Actually, my friend just rage quit the series because of this scene, and I don't blame her. Like, it just wasn't handled well. He tried. He really tried, and he just really stumbled over his own feet and fell down a cliff edge. We will talk about it on the second channel. I'm going to have a spoiler chat for the whole trilogy, so we will talk about it on the second channel, but spoiler free here in this video. I will say book 2 had, overall, it was just a huge step up in the way it was written, in the way it was paced, in the way the plot came together, and the different things were intertwined. Huge step up. The highs of book 2 were so much higher than book 1, and the lows of book 2 were just on the ground. Just actually barged their way through the ground, I think. What an unfortunate end to what could have been a really great book. I'm starting book 3 tonight. I'm addicted to the series. It makes me so angry and so happy. And I gotta keep reading. I'm 300 pages into Magician's Land, the final book in this trilogy, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm confused. What? It's so good? Like, ridiculously good. Not only is this book, once again, a step up from the last book as far as just the way it's written, it's just feeling more focused, and it's feeling like you can oftentimes in a series see an author's improvement in telling the story as you go on, but leaps and bounds each book. Leaps and bounds. But it's not only that, but it's also just the way things are starting to get fleshed out and the things that he's choosing to focus on. We're having multiple POVs now, so I'm not stuck in Quentin's head, which is always a win, but also the different perspectives that we're getting are so strong. I'm learning more about the original story of Fillory, about the kids that were in the original Narnia. Fillory is Narnia. The original story. Fillory's not Narnia. I don't want to offend people, but Fillory's Narnia. So I'm learning about the original people that went into that story and like what the story really was, and learning about what they went through and how what they went through ties into everything that we've already been discussing throughout the duration of this trilogy. And it's written so well, and the trauma in that is explored so well. Like, I've come to accept that this trilogy is one that has me excited and enraged. I get both of the extremes, and I kind of love it for that, because I like how engrossed I am and how much it makes me feel in very extreme ways. It's just fun. And book 3 is just good. It's just genuinely really good. Like, really, really good. Like, I feel like being lulled into a sense of false security. When's the other shoe gonna drop, Grossman? What's going on? Even Quentin, who I love hating, I enjoy rooting against him. And every time it looks like he's going to go explore something and go on a quest and be happy, and then he gets slapped down by the universe, I laugh. But even he is improving as a character so much, to where I'm just like, oh no, I like Quentin. Oh no, I actually like him. He's growing and changing, which I expected. It's always been clear that he was going to have a character arc. Grossman has been very aware that he's writing a very unlikable person. I never expected to like him. I just expected to appreciate his growth. But I think I like him now. This book is really good. Like, concerningly good. I love it. I'm loving everything about it. is this gonna be an incredibly satisfying end to the trilogy? This book is incredible. I'm burning through it. I'm reading it so fast. It's so good. It's so good. What? Huh. I just finished the final book in the Magician's Trilogy, and I have mixed feelings about the ending. I overall enjoyed it. I liked it. I didn't love it. It was so good. This is easily the best book in the trilogy for me. Best written, best paced, best executed, best. It was just, each book has been a massive, big, noticeable step up from the last for me as far as just overall skill at portraying what Grossman is trying to portray with the themes, with the way he's structuring things and pacing things. It's just, everything has been a step up. And book 3 had such a long stretch of just non-stop goodness. But then the last like 60 pages of the book kind of just fell off of that. There were 2 things in particular that I just didn't like. Didn't enjoy it. Nope. Nah. Full on negative feelings about in those last 60 pages. And then the rest of it was like, oh, okay, I can get on board with this, but I don't know. It's kind of like not love. So overall, I'm very happy with this book, but it did kind of end on a less than, like, it was such a high, this book was, and then it just kind of ended right about here. I didn't expect everything to be wrapped up perfectly in the series because Grossman throughout this entire trilogy has been jumping all over the place and introducing a bunch of stuff and then like kind of dropping it, and I didn't expect everything to come together in this big cinematic, wonderful, amazing ending. I expected certain things to be unfulfilling, sometimes intentionally. Sometimes, a lot of times, this trilogy is intentionally unfulfilling because that's kind of the point of what it's doing. It's focusing a lot. I mean, there's a few things that we could definitely dig into and discuss that happen in this trilogy, but one of the main things that Grossman is doing is showing a character who runs away to his favorite fantasy world that he grew up reading, and then he gets there and he finds out that this isn't the perfect escape. Everything's not all better now that I've run away from the real world and ended up in a fantasy world. In fact, this has a lot of darkness in it too, and it's kind of that disillusionment of running away to magic and to fantasy, and actually there's a lot of darker things underneath the stuff that looks whimsical on the surface, right? So a lot of the stuff is intentionally unfulfilling because it's built up to be what we're used to seeing in fantasy tales, and then there's darker things underneath, or it's not always, you're not always the hero, you're not always the one that gets the quest and stuff like that, you know? So lots of good stuff. And I didn't expect everything to just, I expected some things to not come back around. I just wanted the main themes and the main characters to have a satisfying end, and I don't necessarily feel like I did. I feel okay with the ending, but I don't feel, I think, yeah, I could have been better. Overall though, my experience with this trilogy has been, well, it's been very up and down, hasn't it? I have enjoyed reading this trilogy so much. It has brought out so many emotions from me. And what's great too is a ton of us on my Patreon have been reading this all together, not even as an intentional structured buddy read. It's just, we all just kind of piled onto this trilogy at the same time and read at a very similar pace. And it's been very emotional for a lot of us to read this trilogy. So we'll all collectively be ranting together and then gushing together and then back to ranting together. And it's just been so much fun. Yeah, it's a trilogy that I love the ideas being presented, and I love a lot of the execution, but I also think, I also just hate a lot of the execution. It kind of does both of those things. So it's been such a roller coaster to read this trilogy, but I also so rarely get so engrossed in a story that I feel like I have to read it all right now. Like I need it all immediately. That's such, I don't know, I usually space things out more, but this trilogy, I had to read it all because I was so invested in both the things I was loving and the things I was hating. So that's something, at least. Anyway, I do weekly reading vlogs on my second channel where I talk about what I'm reading every single week and vlog it all. We hang out and we chat. But I really wanted to bring this one, make this one its own vlog, its own video, because I just knew that it wasn't going to stop making me feel many different things. And I thought it would be a fun one to vlog. I hope you enjoyed it. I would really like to start bringing vlogs every now and then, like maybe one a month, one dedicated topical thing to the main channel, because I love reading vlogs and I think it would be fun to do every now and then over there as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be having a spoiler discussion for the entire trilogy on my second channel on Tuesday, so it's not live yet, but it will be in a couple of days, where we're gonna dig into all of it. We're gonna dig into the good, we're gonna dig into the bad. There's just so much to unpack here, but it's a trilogy that has brought a lot of feelings out of me, and overall I've had a great experience reading it, even though I've also had a lot of rage moments reading it, but overall very positive. I hope you enjoyed this reading vlog. I hope you enjoyed watching me react to it. I post videos every Monday and Friday on this channel, Tuesdays and Thursdays on the second channel. I'll see you again soon.